Okay, today I am going to talk on the classes and object. Python support you can define your own object. Till now, whatever the object we use by default, Python, or you can say inbuilt objects. But now we are going to learn how as we software engineer can define the class object and use of them. So this is the class and object concept is come from the object oriented programming paradigms. Yeah, you can say oops. So you can say in different way Python is a OOPS programming language. That means object oriented programming language. Okay. So we'll talk about this OOPS basic feature and couple of the properties, or you can say key elements in the OOPS programming language that's Python support. So in the short, you can say Python is a support or provide the capability of the OOPS object oriented programming concept as well as. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the OOPS. What is the OOPS? So as you know, Python is an object oriented programming language. That means almost everything in a Python is also an object. Okay, so Thomas, what is the meaning of object? Okay, I here say कि Python is object-oriented programming language. That means the generally whatever the object or statement or the control or the variables we are talking that can be in the form of object. An object have its two property, you can say property and methods. Okay, so let's in the common terms in the real life how as we software engineer can understand the meaning of object. So in the simplest terms, in the real life everything is an object. What do you mean everything? Everything, maybe mouse, laptop, computer, bed, house, school, earth, moon, whatever as a human being we are observing or we are living, just consider your object. That means in a real life, whatever a person thinks, your child, wife, person, employee, department, company, everything in the object oriented programming language, you consider it is an object. Chair, maze, table, school, pen, paper, whatever you think. Okay, that means due to that here say everything, almost everything in the Python also is an object. There are some exceptional scenario where the not an object but in a real life as well as or any programming language that support object oriented language feature, they can support how you can define in your object. In a real life, we, I, or you, or computer, everything an object. So whenever as a human being you are in the earth, earth is a object. you are an object, sun is an object, everything, whatever you visualize in an object. You can talk about the any noun, maybe person, place, things, animal, each and everything considered as a object, maybe living thing or maybe say non-living things, everything is an object. So due to that, Python also support, because whenever you are going to write the software, generally software is responsible to solve our human problem, our company problem, our business problem. So our company, our business is related to the human being, related to the real words. A real words, everything is an object. So the object-oriented programming language OOPS say how the mapping happen between the real words and programming language. This is our software our programs we are going to write to solve the real business world problem. So whatever the real business world problem, this is the real words problem. So real words like a banking system, finance system, everything. So these are the some different object and terminologies. So how these objects are mapped to the programming software. Okay. So this is where the object oriented programming help us. So object oriented programming language say let's we as a software engineer going to build the software for the human being, for the company, for the business, for the department. So why not we use the same concept, the object relationship? In the real life, we have an object, we have a relationship. Object have some attribute, object some have a behavior, object some have functions. So these similar concept we can map to our software. So object-oriented programming language is the way where real world situation or problem we can easily define our map in the our software. So many programming languages nowadays in the market in the our IT industries that support object oriented programming language feature. In the same series, Python also support object-oriented programming language. So object-oriented programming language have a lots of feature, but Python support a couple of. So we're going to talk couple of feature which Python support. Okay, and in general, all the common programming language support them. Okay, so let's talk class and object. So in the Python, the first and most basics of the object oriented programming language is the class and object. In any programming language that support any programming language that is the object oriented programming language that support the class and object concept. So class and objects are a very basic building block of the object oriented programming language. So you can say whatever the in object oriented programming language you are going to do on the top of these two elements only. What are the two elements? One is the class, another is the object. Okay, object. So whenever you are going to talk object oriented programming language, your all the talks related to the class are related to the object and the relationship between the objects. So overall the class and object the basic building block. Without these two, the object oriented programming language you cannot understand, even you cannot meet. So object oriented programming language completely depend on these two, the primitives or building blocks. So whenever you're going to talk any feature of the object oriented programming language, generally we talk about the class or object. These are the two basic building blocks. Without this, there is a no meaning of the object oriented programming language. In short, you can understand the class and object are the only two major concept or blocks or basic elements that build the object oriented model or programming language. So whatever the features of the object oriented programming language we are going to learn in the coming classes, that's all related to the class and the object. So our responsibility, we carefully understand what is the class and what is the object. If these two concepts we understand, then all the object oriented features we can easily understand. And all the object oriented programming language features are directly related to the only these two terms, object and class. So in the real life, let's talk in the real life and the programming words. This is your real life. This is your real life, and the real life we are going to the map in our computer software. Okay. So in the real life, everything considered as an object. Okay, as I discussed, maybe you're a human being, maybe your animal, maybe your any things, maybe books, maze, department, computer, mouse, pen, table, paper, everything. The the reality is that in a real life, whenever human exist, always in the form of object. Whatever you things see or visualize is an object. So reality are real things in the real life is object. But question is that whenever you come on the computer, how you can define object in the computer? Computer is a blank. They don't everything, nothing. But if you be carefully visualize, let's like a car. If car is a class, or animal, or bird, or human being, that's our human being. So our human being, I, you, and your friends, your family, notice all have a kind of a similar kind of a behavior. All we human being have a hand, mouth, legs, eyes, right? And same places. Similarly, trees have a similar, animals have a similar kind of. So that means lots of real-time object have a similar kind of behavior, right? But question is that these we are going to the map the real world problem to the software industries. That means we have to somehow need the object in the system. Okay, so that our object, our real problem can be solved. So now the major decision made by the software industry engineer are that how we can define these object in the program, in the software, in the computer. So before defining any object in the system, we have to understand the nature of the object, like a man, like a car, like a dog, like a cat. So notice that each object have a different nature, different behavior, different quality according to the nature of object. Like a table have a similar nature or multiple tables, chairs, laptop, computer, human being. So if you are visualize the real world problem, all the objects are not the same type. What's that's like a tree and human being. There are two different types. Tree have a root, tree have a leaf, tree have lots of branches, but almost all the tree similar behavior. The root, stem, leaf, branches. But similarly, all the human being, we have a similar kind of a hand, eye, place, head. Similarly, birds have a similar nature. So, what I am trying to say here, in the real words, every object, lots of objects have, but some objects are very related to each other. They have a common kind of a characteristics or feature or quality or attribute. So in the software industries, when we're going to talk these, then we have to define first this characteristics. First define this common attributes or goal. So in the computer industries, we cannot create object until we don't know the nature of object. This is object is the human being or animal or birds or things, because things have a different attributes, birds have a different attributes, animal have a different attributes. So first we have to define the types or kind of object we are going to use or we are going to solve the problems. So first we have to define the behavior or structure of an object. So this is known as a class. So in the computer, first we are going to define the structure, yeah, the look like an object, so that the similar kind of your object you can create. So in the terms of software industries, first we have to going to define one standard structure. Hey, we are going to create the or manipulate or solve the objects of look like this object. So in the software industries or the program, first you are going to define the structure of an object, that is known as a class, and using this definition or structure of a class, we can go to the create whatever the number of object we want, right? So this is the meaning of your real life object is always. There is a no kind of a physical structure. There is, we define, hey, this is the human structures or animal structures or the tree structure or the things structure. Without structure, nature have everything exist. But we, as a human being, going to try to solve the human life problem to the software industries computer. The computer don't have everything. So we have to going to create those objects in the systems. So while creating object, we must know what kind of object we are going to create. So first we have to define the class and then the object. But real life object is everything. There is no such kind of a class. But yes, in a real life, if we visualize all the human being, then we can say human being a one class, animal is a one class, thing is another class. So logically, in the real words, we say we are human being. Human being is nothing, just the common attributes of the all the objects we as a human being, tree, animals, things, right? So in the reality, object exists first, and the common behavior and attributes of a set of object, we can say this is the group or categories of the object. You can say categories here in the class. In a programming language, first we are defining to, hey, we are going to create object of this type, this group, yeah, this hierarchy. This is known as a class. Okay. So class is, as you discussed, class is just blueprints or the templates that define the property and behavior of an object. So let us example like a pen. So pen is a one things that have a some attributes and that have a some behavior. What do you mean by? Means attributes means the element from which this object pen is constructed. Behavior is what this pen can be used. Pen for writing, pen for right. The writing is the behavior, and the element, the structure, the way this pen is constructed. This is known as a attributes or property. Like a table, chair, laptop, computer, human being, class, animal, bird, everything. So generally, the object we talk that have a some property, that means the element through which this object is constructed. The second, this object have a some use. Why we are using this object means they have a some function, they have a some work. So those known as a property means the element through which the object were built, and the behavior is the use, what the functions, what the behavior of that. So in generally, in the computer, we are going to defining object that have a some use. That is the functions. And how these objects are constructed, which elements are used, that is known as your attributes. So generally, the what the class? So class is going to define attributes and methods known as a behavior of an object. Let's we are going to work on the 10 object. So 10 object, what the object look like? Object have a what kind of elements? How these objects are made? What are the use case? So those are defined in the, you can say, template, or you can a paper. Best example like whenever we are going to define my house, we are going to the building house. So we are just going to define the our blueprints, yeah, architecture of my house. So our house look like, what number of rooms would be in my house, what are the length of the room, what the space, everything we define in our architecture first. Hey, we are going to build my house with a two bedroom, one kitchen, latrine, everything right now, and what the length, height, size, everything we define first in your architecture. With the help of this architecture, you can build your house. So your house is the actual object that are built on the basis of your architecture or a template or designs. So class is kind of a designs or template, yeah, architectures or blueprint. On the basis of these blueprints, we are going to create object. So class is nothing just a logical paper where you are defining your elements through which the object is going to the made and what are the purpose, what the behavior are they are going to use. In the software terms, we can say attributes are the data member of the class which are used to store information. That means the way, the element, the value which the object is going to construct. And the methods are the function that belong to the class that are perform the operations or functions or behavior, you can say. So class in the computer science, class is the first steps where you are going to think what our object look like which we are going to solve the problem. The first you define the blueprint. Once your blueprint is defined, once you decided, hey, I am going to build my house with a two bedroom, one this hall, stair, gate, kitchen, everything. So once you define this architectures, length, width, height, direction, everything, and after this architecture, you ask, hey, builder, can you build my house? The builder can build house with the same designs which you propose. Might be same designs you can use. Hey, you can ask, hey, builder, you can build another house. Similar house can again build with the builder. Maybe another house you can build with another house. Okay. So once you define one your architecture, with the help of this, your blueprint, your architecture of your house, you can build house number one, house number two, house number three. Okay. Notice in the nowadays in the case of apartment, you notice one architecture created and similar kind of one, two, three, four, five apartments are built. Right now. So this is the similar kind of object is the instance of in a class. That means class means where a paper where you define what the attribute of object and what the behavior of an object. And once you define this template, you can create the object 1 and object 2 and object 3. Each object have a similar kind of your instance and similar kind of behavior. Okay, so it has your own set of attributes or data or method or behavior or function. So each object have its own set of value and attributes and can have a independent to the other object. That means the house one you created and house two you created, both house have the same number of beds, same number of attributes, but both are the different. They are different location, different. If this something you can do, change something, you just modify the something color. So this object is not change. This object is not change. That means each object, once you create it from the template, now they have own attributes and function, own attributes and function, own attributes and function. Something you can change here, they are not impacting to the other. They are not impacting to the other. So they are independent. Means each objects are independent. Right? Like a class, a student of class. Let's say class fifth student. The each students, let's say 10th student we have, but each student have a different name, age, attributes, everything. Similarly, so objects are the instance of in a class, right? So these are the two basics of the object oriented programming language. One is your object. Object means the software engineer, we are going to solve the problem of particular business. Those business is an object. Those business have lots of couple of objects. So in this, if you are going to solve the business problem, the business is an object. But in the computer, in the software, we must going to define those objects. So first you have to create your class. Okay, you are going to the create a class, and here you can define the attributes and behavior of an object. Once you define, then reality become happen in the computer. Object is going to the created, and once object created, you are actually object is your solve the business problem. For solving any business problem in the computer must be those objects exist. So whenever you're going to the create object, you must know something what kind of object I'm going to create. Let someone say, hey, you can go to the create a table. So if you ask, hey carpenter, can you create one table for me? So carpenter can create table for you, right? Can create table for you, but again carpenter ask you what is the length, what is the width, what is the height. We tell carpenter, hey, I this. So these questions which carpenter need to build the object, somehow you have to tell them, hey carpenter, I want the my table length would be this, height would be this, functionality would be this and this. So this is the answer of the carpenter is your class or blueprints. Similarly, in the computer, we are going to define the objects. So we ask question, this object, how many number of attribute you have? What is the function you have? This answer is find from the class. So first we are going to defining the class where we are defining the our object look like the detail. This class is becoming input for my builder so that objects are built. Once objects are built, they can solve the problem. Now, later part, we will understand how to make a relationship between the object, how to solve our problem. So these are the basics of your class and objects. Okay, so object is the instance of class which has its own set of attributes and the methods, and each object have own set of value for its attributes and can be manipulated independently with other object. So be careful, you can define one class and in this class you can define the our object have a two attributes and three functions. Okay, and once you created the object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4, means कि from one class you can created many number of your objects, and each objects are the independent. If you something change here, they are not impact other. If you something change here, they are not impact to the other object. Even you can create every object from the same class. So same class created multiple object, but each object are independent to each other. Be carefully to understand this concept. You cannot say if this is the one class you created here, all are the similar behavior, all are the similar nature, but each are the independent. Like we human, all are the different, but I have a different name, I have different height, I have different weight, but you have a different. Wife have a different, girls have a different, child have a different. But everyone have a common behavior. We have a head, hand, eye, foot. We can speak, we can talk. All the behavior are common, but still we are all are the unique, all are the independent. The similar concept in our object-oriented programming language. Okay, so we are not going to talk more detail on the object-oriented concept here, but we just you should understand the very basics. These are the some more advanced level things. Like we once we understand the classes, once we understand the concept of object. So on this concept, these are the additional object-oriented programming language feature that support multiple programming like inheritance, like polymorphism, like encapsulation, like abstractions. So these are the some high level, you can say, uh, feature or functions or object programming language support. These are the concept like inheritance. All are the real words you can example. Inheritance, like if we have a one objects and we can create another object that's required some attribute from here to here. That is inheriting property. Okay, in this case, one we have a object, and from this object you have created another object that's have a some inheritance. Means ki some property behavior I want to inherit in my different class. This is known as a relationship. That means ki inheritance provide a relationship parent and child relationship between the objects. Polymorphism. Polymorphism also kind of relationship between the object. If this is the object one and they have performed X behavior at a time and different times they have performed a different behavior. So objects allow of different classes to be treated the different in a common subclass. Okay, so sometime one object behave different role and sometime the same object behave different role. So this is known as a polymorphism. One object have a multiple form. Like we human beings, sometime we are a play a role as a teacher, sometime as a parent, sometime as a child. So object is one, okay, but they have played different role depend upon the different situation. So such kind of polymorphism also possible कि one object sometime same function. Hey, we have a one object A and you call the perform perform operation. This perform operation sometime perform give the different output, sometime give the different output, depend upon the polymorphism. We're going to talk more detail this concept with example, but as of now, just understand these are some basic key concepts in the object-oriented programming language like inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, and abstraction. Okay, so inheritance, just inheriting the property and behavior of another class. Okay, polymorphism, like one object have a many different form, different upon the situation. Encapsulation is just adding, wrapping the data and the method in the single unit. Okay, abstraction is the kind of concept where we are going to the showing very important essential information of an object to the outside of the words. Okay, these are the basic, you can say, concept, abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. That's all are depend on the basic building block of the class and object. Once you clear the class and object, you can easily understand this inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, and these are the main core key concept of your object oriented programming language. Almost every language support this. Okay, so we are going to talk all these in the details, but as of now just you understand these are the basics. Okay, so today our objective is not to cover each and every concept of the object oriented feature, but focus on the only basic building block about the class and object. We are discussing here Python, so let's come how we can define the classes object in the Python. Okay, so let's, so as you go object oriented programming language, Python is the object oriented programming language. So the main focus is they are everything in the object. So let's understand how I can create object in the Python programming. So as we discuss, whenever I'm going to the create object, surely the person, the compiler or software engineer going to create object without us providing any details, they cannot create anything. He need give me the detailed information what kind of object I am going to the create. So before you are going to the create object, before you are going to the create any object, you have to tell the details what the object look like. This is means class. So first you have to create the class. Once you created the class, then you have option, our compiler, our interpreter, our Python interpreter can able to create the object. Once class is created, you can create object 1, object 2, object 3, object 4, anything. So question is that first how we can create class in a Python. Very simple. Just use the keyword class and your class name, and here you can define all are the details attribute, number of attribute, number of behavior, number of function, everything whatever you want. Okay, so let's look. So here let's you can say class, my class, and this is the your class. Okay, so let's say if you don't want anything, this is a simple syntax. Now your class is created. Now here you can say object 1 equal to my class. This is the way. So now you can define your class, and just if you're not writing this line now, your compiler is not happy. Okay, they are unhappy to understand. So just make sure your compiler is understand, hey, this is the class is completed. The basic concept you can say, hey, pass me, just allow them later part I'm going to change the word. Now your object 1. So once you created, you can create the object of your my class. So class, your class name, here you can give any name, and this is the sometime known as a syntax of in a class. Okay. So here you can, for example, you can give the some attribute, some variable. Here you can get, hey, no, I don't want to dummy. I want to say, hey, this is the my class. I want to say they have x equal to 12. Okay, this is the class. So now if you read it, oh, this is the class created, but I want to access this attribute. So you can say, hey, print object1 dot x. You can get the value 23. Okay. So in this way, very simplest way. So first you define your class name, and the body of detailed descriptions of your class or blueprint. So once you created object, you can create, once you created class first, then you can create object 1, 2, 3, 4. How to create? Just use the class name. Here use the class name, and they create the object for you. Any number of times you can create. Here you can say object 1, you can similarly say object 2, you can create, and just make your class name. This is the syntax you have to pass, so that key Python interpreter know is this time you are going to create the object. This is the class, this is the indication you are going to create the object, and they are going to assign to you. Okay, so here you can say print object 2 dot x. So here you can see the both object have a 23. So maybe this attribute behavior you want to change. That's key I want to change. Here say object 1 dot x equal to 40. Okay, and here say object 1 dot x dot print. Okay, so notice this has an object, this is a value 14, this have an object, this is a value 80. So what till now we understand, whenever you are going to the, this is our class, this class have only syntax, the you are going to the create object 1, this one object 1 going to the create, once object created, the initial value is the 23. You can print them, you can print, then you can get in the output here your 23. You can change, no, I want to change the object 40, So now I change the object here 40. This is got done. Now you can print here again object 40 print. Okay. You can say I can create another object you can create another object, new object created with the again value 23. Again you print that will print the 23. That means the number of objects you're going to create each have a different independent. Something change here, not impact here, not impact here. Okay. So this is your basics. So in the our Python or any programming language, if you are going to define object, create object, any number of objects, first you know what the look like of an object. Then you have to need the class. The class is the template or blueprints where you define the details. And with the help of this blueprint, you can create any number of objects. Each objects are independent. Something modified here, no impact on here. Okay, so how to define this class? Using the class keyword, your class name and details what you want. How to create object? Just use the class name and open close parenthesis and object one created. How to access this data member? Using the dot operator. Okay, and let's talk some these are the very simple class we created, but in the reality we are going to create a class using like a employee, like a person, like car. So whenever you're going to the create a class in person, they have some name, age. So where while creating class where you can define. So notice if someone say you're going to create a table, so logically let's here say I am a class table, okay, table, and here say just like a okay, and say hey table 1 equal to my table. So what the meaning? Table does not have a length. I want to pass some length. Length would be 23 and height something, right now. So here, while the creating the object, I want to give the initial value. That means I tell, hey, the object should be created with this. Like I want to create a person, the person should have a name, age. I want to create a car have some year, model, age. So you want to some initial value. Whenever you are going to the create object, whenever someone going to the create object, you want to provide some initial value. Hey, initial value should be length, height, age, so where this initial value you can provide. That means this object, whatever the attribute they have, I want to give as initial parameter. Or while initializing this object, I want to put this initial value. Okay, so this is where we are using this the inbuilt function init function initialization function. So this function is use init function to assign the value to an object, and this function is automatically called every time when the class is being going to created an object. So let us example like here. Okay, so here I'm going to table. So instead of this I can say, hey, so whenever going to define the initial, okay, initial value, and here I need a table x and y. So here say I need at least x comma y. Yeah, you can say length and width. Okay, length and I need a width. And here say self dot length equal to length, and here can say self dot width equal to So at least now we have say, hey, this is my table, this is my length, this is the width, and we can say, hey, table, and then table one dot length print, or comma you can say table one dot. So in this way, we can create table with a length and width. So this is, you can say, the init function is the place where you can going to define, hey, this is my class. Once my object going to create it from with the help of this class, you can create the object with the initial value. First, we created table one, and another table I can create with a different attributes, maybe attribute 30 length and width would be the 60. Okay, I can create a table 2. Okay, and run it. So now you have created one table with a table 1. Here you can say table 1. Here you can say table 2. Table 2. Okay, right? So this is the way many times whenever you're going to the create any class, you can want to, whenever someone going to the create object, at the initial value they want to the give. So initial value is defined using the init function. So init, or you can say in other programming languages called the constructor function, function or initialization function, that's a place where developer can define the attributes which receive the initial value from while the creating the constructor. Whenever the object is going to the create, this init function is going to the automatically called. And now notice I'm not calling any function, but this init function is going to the call by your Python interpreter. Okay, so whenever say, hey, if you print table 2 directly here, print, and notice I'm getting the output like this. This is the table. This is the object you created table 2 of the table. Okay, so here I am not defining any till now the function. I just say, hey, this is my initial length and width. Let's say I want to calculate the area of this table. So I can say, hey, let's define the area. So area, and you can say return length multiply by self dot width. And you can say, hey, I need a table 2. Let's say comma table 2 dot area. So this is the way you can define the functions. Table 1 dot area. You can do, this is the area of this is the area of this. Okay, and okay, so depend upon the your, okay, here table 2. This is the table 1 area, this is the table 2 area. So here class is the where you are defining the class your table name, and this is known as sometimes your class body. Class body, you can define the initial function and your main function. Main function, your function name, and what the function body. Initial value, what the number of attribute. Whenever going to the create here table 1, you are going to the create table 1, you are going to the create table 2. So here this is the table 1, this is the table 2, and they have a different length. Here maybe here have a 23 and this is the 6. Similarly here have a 30, here have a 6. What are the area? What are the area? Each object have a different area, Any number of your tables object you can create it from this template. The template are blueprint, yeah, architectures which help the Python interpreter can create the object for you. Okay. So similarly here I can give an example like a maybe one person have a let's while creating any person object, I want the person should have a name and age. You can define the attributes of a person name and age here, and this is name and age, and the here you can create a person one object using the class name and the initial value. What to get the value, you can get the value from the this attributes a property you can access from the dot operator, dot this and dot this. And dot operator also used to you can say get or access the function or method of a class as well as. Okay, so sometime you have to also, whenever notice here I'm printing table 2, then they are printing like this. I don't want this. I want to complete details of the table, like not the so string representation of in a class. So here you can define like this is the your init function. Similarly, you can define another function like str function, and here you can give the whatever the want. I want to table, and you can say here uh, table. You can say length, 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 your self dot length, and comma with here you can define self dot width. Okay, and even you can want to here. Okay, so this is the way you can define. Now, if you notice here, I print, you can get in the this table length and width. Okay, and you want to area, you can also here you can mention, hey, I want to area whatever you want right now. So now even now you don't write this directly say, hey, this is the table 1, or you can say print table 2. So this is the function where you can give the complete object in the string representation. So sometime you want just you define the function like initial function like str, this string representation of your class. So notice here in this code I am writing the word self. Self. What is the self? As self means they represent the actual object. So notice here in this example, I created table 1, that means table 1 created, okay, and this is the table 2 created, okay, table 2 created. Here 23 is the length and width is equal to 6. Here we created a 30 and a 60. Okay, this is two table created. Great. And so here I can say call like area function. So whenever you call the area function, self dot length, self dot width. What is the self dot length and self? So here you can say table 2 dot area. Table 2. That means table 2 is the become a self. This. So this 30 multiplied by 60, you are getting the output. Agar if it's a table 1 dot self, this same function you call here, then self become a table 1. Table 1, that means this object. This is the length and width. So here self represent to the current running object from which the function you are calling. This is the table 1 is the self means Here table 2 is the self means, right? So here self represent the current object which are currently going to run. Because in the class, while defining your class template, here class template we are defining, okay, class template you are defining, this is the self. So this self represent which table you are going to print. So because this table you can create multiple table, I can go and create table 1, table 2, table 3, multiple table. So this self point sometime point to this, sometime point to this, sometime point to this. How to depend? Depend upon from which object you are invoking this function. You are invoking table 2 dot self. Here self represent to table 2, table 1, table 3. Similarly, if say you are printing table 1 here, the here self represent to the table 1. They are going to print table 1 value and table 2 value. So self are pointing to the current object which are you are going to invoke the function. So, so this is the str function, or just use the string representation of your object. Now we talk about the self. Self parameter is a reference to the current instance of the class that are used to access the variable belong to the class or method belong to the class or function. Please note that it does not have a named self, but you can it whatever you like. Sometime you want to change the self, you can change anything. But we have a whatever the name, but it should be the first parameter of any function. So here this self, I can change anything. Here I can change ABCD. It works. Now here you can say ABC, ABC, ABC and ABC. It works. It's work. There is no any confusion. So what just self means actual object. Due to that the meaning sake is self is like a current object in you are going to the point. So there is not any hard code in Python ki always you here mention self, but the meaning is very clear. This is the we are going to define table for itself. What the tables itself is the name and length, and this self is the always is the first parameter. If you want to choice, if you want to self or any other name, Python support. But generally, we are using the self so that everyone know hey, this is the current object which are used. In this case, if this line you got table 1 dot area, the self means table 1. In this line when we are called table 2 dot area, self means table 2. Here you are printing table 1, the table 1 means here self means table 1. If you printing 2, that means table 2, self means table 2. So the current object which are going to execute or call access variable or toString or any methods that's point to the current object. The self represent is the meaningful name, but this is not a fix. If you want, you can change the names whatever you want. Okay. So what till now we discuss the basic syntax is the class would be your class name whatever you want, and you can define the attributes of your class self and your parameter 1, attribute 1, attribute 2. So first thing is here you can define the initialization function or constructor you can say. Then you can define your definition 1, function 2, function 3, any number of function you can define. So the basic syntax you can generally you can define the constructor or init function and then different function 1, function 2, whatever. But this is not mandatory. You can skip them. You can skip them. All are the optional. Even you can skip complete function body using the pass keyword. This is no mandatory key, always you follow. But yeah, sometimes depend upon our use case, you can define the class. Once you define the class, then you can create the object. So while creating object, we are using the class name and parenthesis and parenthesis. The number of attribute you want to pass, you can pass, and this syntax create the your object. And from one class, you can create any number of object. So here, the parenthesis is the indication to the Python interpreter. Hey, class name and parenthesis means Python interpreter going to create object for you. And while going to create the object, why this class name? Because class name tell what the number of attribute, function, behavior they have. And once you created the object, you want to the object have attributes, object have a functions, you want to access them, then you can use the dot operator. So access the attributes are a method, you can use the dot notation. This is mention the attribute, this is your method. So method also required this parenthesis. So parenthesis means this is you want to access the behavior. No parenthesis means you have to access the attributes or elements. Right? And the simple example we already discussed, many number of you can create like a car, employee, anything. Simple, you can create a class, your car name, or your init function. Here you can define the car, model, and year. So here you can say the car have a color, model, and year. That means you are going to create an object. While creating an object, you have to pass color is the red, model is the Toyota, and year is this year. So here you can define your init function, initialization function, or you can also define any other function, honk, or any whatever function. And first parameter would be your self, or you can give any name whatever you want. And once you how to create object, just class name and parenthesis and attributes. Now your object is created. And now you can print them, or you can access the variable using the dot operator, access the method using the dot operator. So these are the, you can do anything. You can also create the class car, okay? Car, and you can say, I am going to define my initial function, and can have a color, can have a model, can have a year, okay? And here you can define, okay, self dot color equal to color, and self dot model have a model, okay, model, and maybe we have years, equal to year. So this is your init function. So this is sufficient, okay? And here you can say let's want to car1 equal to, how to create object, car class name and parenthesis, and the attribute you want to 3, you want to pass here color, red, model, year, okay? You can pass. So this is the car created, and you can print. This is the one object created, but they are not printing anything. The good option, you can print the object representation. So here you can define another function like a def init str, and here you can say return uh, of string format car, and here you can say car. Here you can say color colon. Okay, color you can say here self dot color, and similarly you can say model self dot model comma, here you can say year colon self dot year. So in this way you can use the string representation of this object. Okay, so now this is a color, and maybe you can multiple car, you can create it car 1, you can create car 2, maybe black, BMW year 25. Okay, so here you can say create car 2. Okay, so this is the way you can create. And even you want to define the function, variable, object, whatever you want. Okay, so this is the way you can define the car initial function, attributes, and you want to define some function, speed, everything. You could define any function, whatever you want, right? Okay. So some things, let's talk about whenever you can define the class attribute can have a two places. Whenever you are defining the class, here we can define attribute in the two types of attributes. One is the class attributes, one is the instance attributes. So what are the class attributes and instance attributes? These are the shared by all instances of class. They are defined at the class level or accessible using the class name. Okay, and instance are the unique for each instances, and they are defined in instance level or okay. What do you mean? So that means whenever you can define one class, okay, and the variables here two kind of variable one or variable two. One is the class variable. That means you can here one is the instance. So here you can create object one, object two, object three. The instance variable for each have a unique copy. Each have a unique copy. They are not shared, but class variables are somehow the shared variable that can access by the every instance. Okay, so let's discuss where you can define the class variable, where you can define the instance variable. For example, employee of a company. So you are defining one class employee of a company. So employee employee ID. Every employee ID employee. Let's employee one, employee two, employee three. The every employee have a own ID. Employee ID one, employee ID two, employee ID three. The employee ID must be instance attribute. What is the employee name? Employee name would be the common for this company. If the this employee also employee, this is also. The one employee name would be the common, right now. So maybe today, current date is the common for every employee. Okay. So some attributes can be common for all the instances. In those cases, you can say class attribute. Excuse me, sorry. And but some attributes would be isolated, unique for each and every object. So those known as an instance. So whenever you are going to defining any attribute in the class, you have to first think in these attributes, whatever the attributes you are defining, this attribute is unique for every object. That means this is the instance attributes. But you are going to defining one the attributes that can be same for all the attributes. That would be your class attributes. This is the simple. Sometime it's needed right now. So the let's this example. So here your class, here you can declare wheel, here you can declare the color. So whenever you're going to the create a car 1, car 2, car 3, do you notice our car, every car must have a four wheel. So this is become your class attributes. But each car I want to unique color, red color, blue color, white color. The color would be your instance. So whatever the variable you define inside your init, this is the place known as an instance attribute. This is the place where if you declare variable here, this is known as a class variable. Generally, class variables are accessed via the class name itself from class name, and color variable you can state from the instance. So let's example class my class. Okay, class. Here you can declare CLS variable, class variable. Okay, and equal to Manoki 34. So this is and define init, and let's instance variable. This is the class variable. This is the instance variable. Just per place. Here say self dot instance variable equal to instance. Okay. And whenever you create the object one equal to my class here. Okay. And here can pass the variable like 23 or object 2. They have a 34. Okay. So each object 1, object 2, they have a different instance variable, but they have a common class variable. Okay. Let's print object 1 dot instance variable, or you can say object 1 dot class variable. Let's see, you can create object 3. Okay. Object 2, object 3, object 2, object 3. Okay. So here notice every have a same class variable, but each instance have a each variable instance variable is different for it. And good thing, you can access class variable from the your object name, but preference way you can say, hey, this is the my class. So preference way you can use the class variable with the class name itself. Okay. Even you can say class name dot class variable. Okay. Dot class variable. So prefer way, whenever you are accessing any class variable, you can use the class name to access, an instance variable you can either from instance variable you can access the class variable as well as instance variable, but this is not recommended. But from class variable, you cannot access the instance variable. You cannot access the instance variable here because this instance variable is not belong to the class. Okay, so be carefully. From class name, you can only access the your class variable. But from ins object, you can access the instance variable as well as the class variable. But this is not recommended. Okay, so whenever you are defining the class variable, you can use your class name to access the class variable. For attributes or instance, you can access the object of your class to access the instance variable. The someone to define the class variable or instance variable. Variable or you can say attributes, both are the similar things. So similarly, whenever you are defining the attributes or variable, they have a class or instance. Similarly, whenever you're defining the methods or methods of the function belong to the class or instance, can be the perform the operation on the class or attributes. They have instance method, class method, and a static method. So now the while defining attributes, two kind of attributes, class and instance, but method have a class method, instance method, even one is static method. So instance method, similarly, the methods that are called on the instance, they have access the instance attributes and can modify them. Class are the methods that can a class itself and they can access the class attributes and can modify them. And static methods are belong to the class but does not access the class attributes. The static methods kind of utility methods that are not directly or indirectly related to the any class. So you can define the class 1, class 2. Okay. So here can be class method for this class method for this class. But sometimes you need a particular methods that can for this class as well as can for this class or can for this one. So you can say static methods are methods that not belong to any classes. That just utility method. That method can be used in class 1, class 2, class 3. So due to that, they have additional, you can say, third option in the methods is the static. That means you are just going to define the utility function. That utility function can be used by your class 1, class 2, or any number of classes can use this utility method. They are not directly belong to any class, but class methods are belong to a specific class. Instance methods are belong to a specific instance only. Okay, for example here, same example here, your car class, this is your instance method because here you are writing the instance method. Okay, class methods just annotate this is the class method. They can access your class level variable. Okay, here you can say at the rate static methods, that means this is your for just utility method. They can access not access or you cannot belong to your class, but you can write inside the class. Okay, so here you can write the define the, you can say class label method, label label method. Here whatever the your class variable they can access. Okay, and just print them whatever you want. Okay, okay, whatever you want, like return. Okay, they can access this variable. Okay, or anything is what you want right now. Here you can say cls dot class variable, right? And you can also define define static method. Here you can pass anything, any. Okay. Return monthly multiply by anything, right? So here you can use the annotation, say, hey, this is the class method, and here you can say this is the static method. So this is the just demarcation. This is the method, and just like define drive. This is the print drive. Okay. So this is the way you can define the your instance method. This is the class method. This is your static method. So static method, just like utility method, that can take any kind of input. They can use the class variable. They can use the instance variable self. That means whatever the here you can say maybe return your self dot your instance variable. So instance methods can access the instance variable. Class method can access your class variable and modify them, change them. Static methods are utility that's not belong to your class, but that you can define inside a class. This can access from your class name, okay? And here you can write the print like maybe object 3 dot you can access your instance uh, uh, drive. Here drive method. You can invoke your drive methods here. You can access the drive method. Or using the class name, you can say my class dot your static method. You can call let's pass the 42 and multiplication you return anything. Or you can class my class dot your class level methods, and by default you can access the class variable. Okay. So this is the way you whenever you are defining any class, you can have a class can have attributes. The attribute can be your class level attributes, ER instance attribute. If you're defining a method, method can be your instance methods, class methods, or static method. For class and static, you use the annotation so that's clear. Here, this is the static method. This is the utility method that can be used for any classes anywhere, and this is for they can access the class variable. So this is about your the class and attributes. Okay. And what are the major differences between the class or static as discussed? Both look like the same, but in the Python, both methods are defined methods that are bounded to class rather than an instance. Both you can say the class level, but they are implicit parameters, and class methods can access the class parameter, but while the static method cannot do any implicit parameter and access to the class attributes, class method can access the class attributes and modify them, but while a static method cannot access the any class variable or instance variable. The purpose of this class is that class methods are typically use the class level operations, and static methods are basically defined utility function. That function are used anywhere in your application. So generally for utility functions, we are using the static function that can be accessed across my application anywhere. But sometime you want to class methods that for a specific class variable they can access, modify them, change them, and works. An instance is the instance methods. So we should be clear this static method, class method, and instance methods. So that is till now we have a cover like class and objects are the basic building structures or block of the object oriented programming language. Object oriented programming language work on the objects and they have a key feature like inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation. We're going to talk detail later, but the class and objects are the key features of the object oriented. While you're going to create the object of an object, that we should know the class are the detailed attributes. Hey, the object look like, what is the attributes, what is the behavior, what is the method. So class define the behavior or attributes or methods variable for an object. Once you define the class, you can create the object 1, object 2, object 3. And once you created the object, you can object dot, using the dot operator you can access the attribute, or object dot operator you can access the method using the parenthesis. You can create the object using the class name, your class name and parenthesis, and pass the initial parameter if you define the init function or toString function. So these are the basics about your class. Just go through, and once this object and class concept is clear, this is very easy to understand other OOPS principle, object oriented principles like inheritance, composition, polymorphism, abstraction, everything. Okay, but let's do practice. In Python, generally class or methods are many places used. So we should aware how to create a class, how to create the constructor, that means init function, how to initialize the instance variable, how to initialize the class variable, how to define a method. Method can be three form, maybe instance method, maybe class method, maybe static method, how to create the object, how to invoke the method, how to invoke static or class method. Okay, so these are the basic things we cover. Let's go through, and if you just do some couple of exercise, just you write your some class method and you feel comfortable. Okay, do practice on how to create class object and how to define the attributes like class attributes, instance attributes, how to define the method like class method, static method, and instance methods. Once you do couple of code, couple of program, you feel comfortable. Okay, so that is about for the class and object in a Python. Python is the object oriented programming language. That is for the day. Thank you.